As I stated previously, the great thing about CorelDRAW is it gives you lots and lots of different options, lots of different paths for arriving at the same destination. You just saw a bunch of methods for filling your shapes with color. I'm going to give you one more method that you can use, and you can certainly pick which method you like best. So make sure you have a shape on screen, make sure he's selected with the pick tool, and then this time what I'll do is I'll head all the way down to the bottom of my toolbox, and there we have a paint bucket icon. He's called Fill. Now the interesting thing about this guy is he isn't actually a tool, he's a command. If I click on him, then I actually get this flyout here, and I'll go and choose Uniform Fill. And what's interesting is now I get a dialog box showing up inside CorelDRAW, this Uniform Fill dialog box. Now, at first glance, this dialog box might look intimidating, but I'll show you the highlights here. I'll show you the important stuff here. First of all, make note of the tabs across the top. We have models, mixers, and palettes. So make sure you're on models there. And then we have this model drop-down menu, and we see all kinds of weird things, CMYK and RGB and YIQ and grayscale and so on. Now, we'll talk about different color spaces in just a little while. Imagine these are different languages for describing color. That's really all they are. And then what I have is this main color window here. Now, usually people look at this area here and they go, okay, I want to go and choose a new color. Where are my blues? Where are my greens? And so on. Well, here's how it works. Is you actually want to start with this guy right here, this color ramp, this vertical color slider. Right now I'm in the yellows. I'm going to grab this little slider and drag up, and now I'm into the greens and into the blues and into the purples and on and on and on, right? So I would say, okay, I want green. So I would drop myself into the greens, and I would think, well, do I want to go into the more yellowish greens or into the more bluish greens? Where do I want to be? More into the aquas or, more into the limes? Anyway, I'll arrive somewhere here. And then what I'll do is I'll go and select the specific hue of green that I'm after. Maybe I want to go with more blacks in my green, a darker green, or maybe into the whites, a lighter green, right? So I hope that makes sense. Okay, hopefully fairly straightforward. Now, sometimes the CMYK or the RGB color values that you need. Now, maybe I'm jumping ahead a little bit too much here, but what you can do, if you know what I'm talking about, is you can drop those values into the C, M, Y, and K value fields that we have here. Now, what's interesting to note as well is when I go and find a new color here, let's say this green right here, I have an old color reference, and there's my new color reference. So that's the color that I started on, and this is my new color right here. That's how that works, right? So I'm going to go ahead and click on OK, and when I do so, my currently selected shape fills with the new color. Fantastic. All right, now there's lots of other things I want to show you inside that dialog box, so I'm going to head back to it. Don't forget, it's the fill command down towards the bottom of the toolbox, and then we chose uniform fill. Go ahead and do the same there. So that's how the models tab works anyway. I'm going to go over to the mixers tab. Now the mixers tab I don't use myself. You can use it if you want, but it's sort of a personal thing. Again, we have a model drop-down menu, and what we have now is a different interface for essentially doing the same thing, essentially selecting color, right? But now we're presented with a different interface. Now we have our color wheel. So what I can do is I can grab this little nub here and I can drag this guy around on the color wheel, right? Something like this. And there again we have the old reference and the new reference over on the right hand side. So again, it's just a different interface. That's really all there is to it. I can grab these little white dots and mess with them a little bit if I want to and so on. But anyway, I prefer the models tab, as I say, but it's entirely up to you. I'll go ahead and click on OK, and I changed the shade of green ever so slightly. You probably didn't notice my change there, but in any regard, there you go. I wanted to show you that dialog box. Now let me show you one more quick thing, just as a point of interest. You can get to that dialog box, of course, by heading to the fill command at the bottom of the toolbox. There's another way to get to that command as well. I'll head back to my Object Properties panel over on the right-hand side. And you may have noticed this before, but we have an Advanced button down at the bottom of the Object Properties Docker. Go ahead and click on that guy, and that will bring you into the exact same dialog box. There's Models, Mixers, and Palettes. And of course, the same interface that we just saw a moment ago. By the way, I didn't talk about the palettes tab. We'll get into palettes in a little while. This gets into working with something called Pantone colors or Pantone inks. So I'll save that for a little later. All right, I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of this. Go ahead and fiddle around with filling your shapes with color, and I'll catch up with you in just a moment. To change your